Hello mathematicians, I hope by the end of this video and with a little bit of practice you can say I can calculate measures of center, which include mean, median, and mode. Let's look at a quick example here. So this says we surveyed 5 city blocks to see how many buildings are on each. Our data set was 10, 5, 12, 15, and 3. Before we get too far into this, I think the good first step to always take is to just rewrite our data set and make sure that all of our numbers are in order from least to greatest. We can see that they're kind of jumbled up. So let's get this data set in order from least to greatest. So we can see the smallest number here is 5, so let's put 5 right there. I usually cross them out just to make sure that I don't include that same number twice. All right, now we've got 10 as our next lowest number. So let's go 10. 12 as our next lowest number. 13 and 15. All right, so now we've got our data set in order from least to greatest. And first of all, we're going to calculate the mean. So the first step when we're calculating our mean is we're going to add all the items from the data set. So we're going to take 5 plus 10 plus 12 plus 13 plus 15, and we're going to get 55. If you want to do that off to the side, pause this video and do that. That is totally fine. Okay, and now our next step is going to be to divide by the total number of items in the data set. So we're going to take 55 and we're going to divide it by 5 because there are 5 items in the data set, and we're going to get 11. So our mean for this data set is going to be 11. Now we're going to calculate the median. The median is the middle number of the data set, so we can look at this data set up here. And maybe a good strategy to try would be to just cross the numbers off from outside to inside until you get to the middle. And we see that our median is going to be 12 in this instance. And this is pretty easy because there's an odd number of entries in the data set. But let's say we were to change up this data set slightly so that there's another number at the end right here. So I'm going to change up this data set just slightly. So now in this example, I added another 5 at the beginning. So in order to find our median, we would cross our numbers off until we work our way to the middle. And now we see there's going to be 2 numbers in the middle. So now we have both 10 and 12 are in the middle. So we would take 10 and add it to 12, and we would get 22. And from there, we'd take 22 and divide it by 2, because there's 2 numbers in the middle, and we would get 11. So in this instance, our median would be 11 for this data set right here. And the last measure of center we're going to talk about is mode, which is just the number that occurs the most often. Okay, and it's okay for there just be one mode, there can be multiple modes, or there can even be no modes. So for example, in this top one right here, this first data set that we worked with, okay, there would be no mode, because no number occurs more often than any other number. So there's no mode. So it's important that you do not say 0 for the mode, because 0 is a number and 0 is not in this data set at all. So 0 is not the mode. In this data set, there is no mode. Okay, with this data set right here, we can see that the number that occurs the most often is 5. So 5 would be the mode for this data set right here. Okay, let's say there's another 15 at the end, then 5 and 15 would both be modes for this data set. But because there's just 5 that is repeated, 5 would be the mode for this data set over here. So I hope by now, with a little bit of practice, you can say I can calculate measures of center, which include mean, median, and mode.